Good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So nice we are here. So next week, apparently, and Patty and Sheila, you kind of like tell me, but I'll be in Florida already, so I'll be teaching from Thubten Kungaling over there. So I will be there because once I'm there, it's just very nice that we can use the space, the center for that, and then we can do the teachings directly from there. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna have a different background, different a different altar behind. So and then it's gonna be easier for me. It's gonna be at the same time 7, not 9 p.m. So it's also gonna be different. So that is gonna be the also very interesting. And then so then we were talking about last week, and I said, that's good that we were able to talk about the eight worldly concerns, because it's such a main topic in Buddhism, and it's such an important way for us to really approach Dharma. And as I said, is based on, there's the best book from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, How to Practice Dharma. So this is really, 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 really good. So once we decided to come here together again today on this Tuesday, almost Thanksgiving coming in America, so that is also very interesting. So for that, we really need to try to make sure that we are using our time, our body, speech, mind, our energy in a positive way. So that is also important. And now that we learned about the eight worldly concerns, we know that what really is beneficial, it's going kind of like, transforming or letting go or, understanding the nature of the eight worldly concerns, right? And not allowing our minds to allow ourselves to just, grasp to them, grasp to just, gain and material goods and just happiness. And then, well, then temporary happiness, and then also pride, praise, and then, also a good reputation. If we use our minds and our body and our speech and our energy here, that we took time to actually be here together and to not be doing something. So then if we use it to enhance the eight worldly concerns, then this is not the best use of our time. Actually, this creates more and more suffering for ourselves and others, right? So that's what we really need to start understanding. So that's why reading that book, I highly recommend, because it's a bucket of cold water. At some point, internet had this thing about people throwing a bucket of cold water on themselves, and I always say it's like that book for me. It's like when I realize that I'm not all practicing Dharma, that everything that my crazy mind goes, it's about just like the eight worldly concerns. So if you really think in this way, then it starts to make sense and to make really use, of our times. And I always say people nowadays, they are really struggling to find meaning in their lives, right? People are really lost, really trying to find meaningful lives. And then, then they kind of like get out of their jobs and then they go traveling around the world. And then they think that is what is going to bring them happiness. Or they go this and they go that and they change this and that. But guess what? It was exactly my experience when I went to work in charity in Thailand and Indonesia. The eight worldly concerns, even though I was not even aware of eight worldly concerns, but they were still there. I was still worried about, grasping to, to kind of like good reputation or to kind of like, money and do this and that. And I said, well, this actually doesn't help me. It doesn't matter that I'm not anymore in finance, in financial markets, but I'm still here. But the mind, exactly the same, approaching those external things in exactly the same way. So, if we think in this way, then everything we're going to do, then of course everything become meaningless because it's the same. It's almost like we're just changing the place, changing clothes and all of that. Then exactly the same. Then no meaning, right? Then that feeling of dissatisfaction, which is the actual translation of dukkha, that Buddha was talking about when he thought for the first time, that dissatisfaction that is never fulfilled, that is always there, right? Because we are following or we are trying to achieve the absence or the elimination of that suffering, with that idea of external things, with the eight worldly concerns. We are just following the eight worldly concerns. So today we're going to start really looking into it and realizing that the real issue, it's not the praise, it's not the criticism, it's not the kind of like, it's actually the mind of attachment, right? And the mind of attachment is something that is so hard for us. All of you already heard about it, but it's so hard for us to really understand what the mind of attachment really means, because right now attachment equals to happiness in our minds. That's what it is, right? Having the object of attachment, having what we want, what we are attached to, is the goal of our lives. Right? That's what we are kind of like looking for. That's what we are doing in our daily lives. We are kind of like trying and striving and looking for ways, to develop or to achieve and to gain and to get the object of attachment. And then the object of attachment can be just a pleasant word. It can be a kind of like a smile, can be a thank you. It can be whatever it is, but that's what it is that we are craving as happiness. And when we get it, wow, we have that feeling of, fulfillment. But because it is absolutely, completely, right, impermanent, changing. So it means it decays. So 5 minutes later, that feeling is back, that dissatisfaction, right? It's back again, and we start again following it. I need it. I need that. I need it. Now, and then we start with this crazy mind that we have, extremely creative mind. Let's say it. Okay, let's really put it like this, because we are very creative in trying to find the objects of attachment, and we start to create an entire story about how to achieve that. And that's exactly how our lives have been, developed in this way. Everybody thinks, oh, yes, we developed these because we are very nice people, and, because we are, just thinking about others and all of that. And I say, yeah, sure. But if we really think about it, there's definitely something. What is in it for you, right? And that is the mind of attachment. The mind of attachment is always worried about that, about what is in it for me. And why? It's not because we are crazy. It's not because we are stupid. It's not because we are kind of like, like, how can I say, yeah, that we don't know. It's about the habitual tendencies and patterns of believing that through the mind of attachment, we will achieve our goal of lasting, peaceful, absolute, complete happiness. That is the problem. We believe in that, We still believe. We still are kind of like really thinking it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just because I didn't, I didn't go there with that. Or because in Buddhism now, because now I have all of these Buddhist people here, I can make jokes, and then we can say, now what we do is that we kind of like, it's just because I didn't have that initiation, or I didn't receive those teachings. It's just because I haven't received that commentary of the commentary of the commentary of the That's what I think. I was discussing that with a friend of mine, one of my monk friends, and I was reading, because I'm reading this special book from Dilgo Kensing Rinpoche, which I really, really enjoy. And then he was saying, he's saying something that believing that the external dharma, like, the prayers, the teachings, and all of that, that they have the power from their side, right? To actually give what we want, enlightenment or all of this. It's absolutely nuts. It's absolutely non-dharma, right? Because that it is what we are used to. We are cheap. We come and then we grasp to the teacher, we grasp to the prayers, we grasp to the practice, we grasp to the my practice, my retreat, isn't it? Because we still believe that, oh, if I go to that place and I meditate and I do this, then this is gonna happen, right? But with this idea that, oh yeah, I just need to go there, I just need to do the, with no idea of intention why you're doing that. Hmm? Lama Yeshe used to say something that I love. He used to say, more important than what we do is why we do things. And then when we realize why, we can start thinking about how. And how is bodhicitta, right? The why is bodhicitta and the how is bodhicitta. Because the why is going to be about ultimate bodhicitta and the how is going to be about relative bodhicitta, right? As we only have very advanced people, I'm doing a little bit more advanced today. But if there's people that's more, then we do less. We go like this. But you know all of this. But it's important for us to actually understand it because otherwise we approach Dharma with that understanding, believing, that these attachment to Dharma and to external things of Dharma, it's okay. Right? No, but this is a good attachment. No, no, no. It's very, because then I get inspiration, No, but then I get, yes, but you can actually get inspired without the attachment. Hmm? That is possible. Hmm? We don't need, we don't need attachment to survive because attachment is not an inherent part of our minds. It's just, um, what is the word that I heard the other day? And adventitious. Yes, it's a good word. Adventitious. The means is kind of like it's impermanent.
Advantageous. Advantageous.
Advantageous.
Yes. But
No, I think it's more like adventitious means like not it's not an advantage in a positive. It's more like it's changing. How do you say that? Yes, it's impermanent. That's what it is. It's kind of like that's what it means. It's totally changeable, right? So if we understand that, ah, we understand that actually in positive, like the mind doesn't need to have, it doesn't need to, it is not a part of, it doesn't need to have attachment in order for us to live, in order for us to survive. Hmm? Even though we do believe that, but then how life would be so boring, no colors, no this, no that. That's how we feel. But we forget that actually Buddhism it's a realistic approach. That's what we are trying. We are trying to have a more realistic approach, an approach that is actually more based in reality, without the kind of like veils and confusion that attachment bring to our life. Right? Yes, Mr. Bob.
so, because you've spoken about this before,
Mm.
what is the fine line between enjoyment
Yes.
and attachment so that your enjoyment without attachment?
Yes. So the thing that is very very good question because this is exactly the way the mind goes now, right? Which is enjoyment and attachment. It's like they are together, they are needed, right? It's like without attachment, I cannot have enjoyment. That's what it is. That's what we think.
No,
It is
I'm not saying that. But
it is.
no,
It is.
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying, is it okay to have enjoyment without attachment?
The thing is that we need to decide define enjoyment. And
Right.
that is what is exactly is going to be the problem. Because right now, the type of enjoyment that we are craving, right? It's a sensory pleasure. Hmm?
Okay.
And we believe that the sensory pleasure comes from the object, right? So that type of mind by itself can only give us very temporary sensory pleasures. That's it. It's obvious. But when we talk about, you know, and that the reason why is because what attachment is doing, attachment is projecting, right? That's what it's doing, is projecting qualities into an object, into a person, into a situation, into an experience that do not exist in the object, in the person, in the, from the side of, or they don't happen, they are not an inherent part of that person or that situation or their object. But into our minds, when our minds are under the influence of attachment, completely believe it's coming from them, right? Completely. We are completely blind. Isn't no love is blind, we say like this, no? Completely. We are completely seeing that. So then what we do is that we crave for the sensory pleasures that we believe that those qualities, right? Those inherent qualities that the object have will give to us. And guess what? They are not needed at all. First, they are not at all coming from the side of the object, right? They are completely mental formation. And we believe that this mental formation, that this mental experience is happiness. But actually, when we look into the energy of it, Lama Yeshe used to talk about that a lot in the Intro to Tantra book. He talks about energy. And then when we talk about the energy of it, it's actually a energy that is completely kind of like, disturbed. When we are actually attached and we are looking for having the attachment, all of that, our minds are not at peace, relaxed, open, nice. No, our minds are completely tight, focused, you know, into something that we believe wrong, completely deluded, completely kind of like tight and anxious. Like we talk about it, butterflies in the stomach. Can you imagine having butterflies in your stomach? It must be a horrible experience, right? You're having something that is like like this. Hmm? But we believe that this is good. We label it as pleasurable, right? And that is exactly what we need with wisdom. Start shifting, you know? Why? Because the moment that we actually engage into that experience of pleasure, what happens is that it comes with it, immediately comes with it, the anxiety or the fear of losing it. And guess what? That experience is by nature impermanent. Therefore, it will happen. It will happen. It will finish. It will go away. Something will like there's no other option. So there's no way to really enjoy when we actually having attachment and enjoyment is not really enjoyable. Hmm? But we truly believe that that's what it is. Why? Because that's what we are familiar with. And let's face it, it's kind of like sensory pleasures in themselves. Yes, they do have a certain possibility of giving those temporary enjoyments, right? As we see them now. But it's just because we don't see the other option of it. And the other option is a mind that is absolutely free from any anxiety, any fear, any illusion or expectation that can never be fulfilled. And we know that. On a very simple experience that we can check is like when we simply don't have expectation about something, we are happier, isn't it? When we are accepting, oh, okay, you know, yes, I don't have so many expectations. And then you go and it's like, wow, this was actually quite nice, right? Because the mind was free from that eating bug, the bug that is eating the apple, and goes like, it's like that, the eating bug of attachment, just all the time, 24/7, hitting our heads of like, no, but now you need this, but then you're gonna need, and then you're gonna need, and then you need, and if and when, and it's always something, the next one, the next thing, the next thing. So it's always creating ideas, expectations that can never be fulfilled. So imagine not having expectations and just being with what it is. And understanding that, for example, temporary sensory pleasures, they can give us only temporary sensory pleasures. I'm not gonna die or use my time and energy and my money to trying to chase something that can never be fulfilled. But that's how we do now, right? So imagine living like this. That's freedom. That's what freedom is about, right? When we talk about liberation, we have the two types. We have liberation and we have enlightenment. When we talk specifically about liberation, is the mind being liberated from, the negative emotions, karma, and wrong views. That's it. You know, that's what we can achieve. Why we can achieve that? Why? Because that's our essence. Our minds are free from these things. They are. It's their. It's the natural state. Because if they were not, then they would mean that they would be a part of a part. I'm gonna use a word like I don't want to use the word inherent part. Yeah, but an inherent part or a necessary part, right? We would have to say that attachment, negative emotions, anger, aversion, they would be a necessary part of life. And that's what most of us think it is true, right? I have a person, most of the people that come and talk to me and they say something, and then, we talk about the roller coaster of our lives, and then they say, yeah, but that's part of life, right? And the Buddha said that is like, yes, life is suffering. But he said, the mind, with the mind that we have now, life will be suffering and continue to be suffering. But we don't have to. And that is the way, that is the path that we can go out. We can free our minds, we can liberate our minds from that. Why? Because when we take that, then the pure nature, the pure essence of our consciousness, the clarity, the knowing, the kind of like, the love, the compassion, the kindness just manifest. So when we talk about really liberating ourselves in some ways, I would go a little bit deeper and I'm going to say it's actually liberating us from constructing illusions. So deconstructing them, right? And guess what? Don't construct anything. You don't need to. You just rest into the pure nature of your own mind, and that's it. Everything is there. Everything is there. I'm going to Mahamudra teachings now. But that is the idea, right? It's actually what we can. So, that type of enjoyment of having a mind that is free from attachment, free from all delusions, that is the type of enjoyment that we want. To go back to your question, Bob, that's what we can actually have, right? I can't hear you. Wait,
I
yes.
got it. Terrific.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely
So
terrific.
that is the you know me. I go like, but I
Oh
go back.
yeah. No, 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 no. This is great. This I really missed this.
So that is the idea. That is like really, really the type of change to do it, and that's why it's so hard, because the mind is so habituated in the belief that enjoyment and attachment needs to come together. And I'm going to be honest, in the way that we are talking about enjoyment right now, it might have to, right? Because yes, we need to have the object to crave for so we can have it and then have that little high, hyper moment of 5 minutes or 5 seconds of and then yeah, I got the object of attachment and then gone, right? So, but they are not needed. They are not essential parts of the mind of the experience. So that is very important that we kind of like make it very clear for ourselves. That is like, what is the difference between, being attached to something and just enjoying something, right? Because otherwise, Lamayeshi used to say that as well. If we throw the baby with the bath water, that's how we say, no? Then life becomes horrible and boring and all of that. But if we understand that the sensory perceptions, the senses, they are, as a human being, the doors for us to have temporary sensory pleasures, pleasant senses, pleasant sensations, right? That's what it actually is. Temporary pleasant sensations. If we understand that that's what they can give us, that's it, right? Enjoy them like this. Otherwise, especially we have a tendency to be a little bit extreme people. So we just want to totally throw the baby with the bathwater. So, oh no, I'm very attached to chocolate. I can never have chocolate again in my life. It's very bad for me. That's how it goes, no? It's very bad for this, very bad. There we go. And then life becomes boring, and then the mind becomes sad, and then the mind becomes, tired, and then becomes not happy. And then good luck with trying to enjoy practicing Dharma, right? We had the privilege to have teachings with Sharak Lama, and he talked about enjoyment and enjoy and having joy. And for me, the reason why we didn't go so much in that sometimes, but what I feel is that because we are throwing the baby with the bathwater, right? We are saying, oh, everything, any sensory pleasures are bad, very bad, right? And then we don't have that. I was discussing that with another friend, a monk friend who has been monk very many years, and he was like struggling with enjoying happen his practice, which happens a lot to us, but it's because the mind is with this idea of bad, no, this is bad, we shouldn't be doing this, is bad, right? And we don't understand that this is just going too much. Yes, it's chocolate. If you eat an entire chocolate cake every single day of your life, is not a good idea in many ways. But if you enjoy a piece of cake, as we were stuck in Lukla and we were enjoying many pieces of cake because that's what we could. But that, as I say, that helps the mind. If the mind is starting to get negative and bad and all of that, so then you kind of like you give a little piece of cake, to the mind, so the mind gets a little bit happy, and then you use that mental state to actually shift it out of the negative tendency, right? That is the use that we can have with understanding the difference between attachment and enjoyment. Does it make sense what I'm talking about? Are we communicating? Yes. Yes. Okay, so that's because that is important, because otherwise what happens is that we get stuck into this, right? We kind of like we say, but I've been building my life based on that concept of having those sensory pleasures, and it's working. That's what we say. It's been working until now, but then we really need to check, is it really working? What does working mean? Having just chasing long lasting, absolute type of happiness, or that happiness that comes from the freedom, right? From the mind that is free from the negative emotions, from attachment, than having 5 seconds sensory enjoyment. Is it really working? I don't know. You know, I don't know if it is really working. That's what we need to start kind of like debating with ourselves. Really debating. And especially when we talk about, this the super glue, attachment is like super glue. It's like and really get stuck, like this. But when we really talk about attachment, it's kind of like it really, we need to understand that it's actually an exaggeration, right? So we can say that there is, like, two aspects of attachment. The first is the projection, right? Completely hallucinated projection. Hmm? We take it out all the bad. We take it out all of the things that we know consciously, We really think, we really take it out. We really believe that it's like, no, 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 that's gone. That person has it, or that situation has what I've been looking for my entire life. That's what attachment does. We really project. We really project the good qualities and all of that, but we project as if it's almost like mm, like a it's like a momo. Do you know it's a momo? It's like a dumpling. you know, we believe that happiness is inside of the feeling. I think I spent too much time in Nepal and India. So, we're having too much dumplings over there. So, we believe in that. We believe. So then we crave. We really crave and grasp to the feeling as if the feeling will bring the happiness, right? So there's these two aspects. It's not only the projection. The projection would be okay, right? But we believe that the happiness is inside of the object. Yes, Patty said cheese balls. Yes, we were eating these fried cheese balls in Nepal. That we were like every single meal, from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we were having these cheese balls. We believed that happiness was inside of the cheese balls. But that's what we do. And then once we project that, right? We project that happiness in there. We project that happiness in that person. We project that happiness in that kind of like, relationship, in that job, in that car, in that experience, in that pilgrimage, Even in that, we believe is going to be there, right? So then we cling to it, right? These are also connected with the two aspects. We talked a little bit about the nature of the mind. We talk about the appearance and the awareness, and like we would call it about clear and knowing. So it's like that. First is the appearance, the way the appearance comes, and then the way we interact with it, right? So the way it appears, it not only appears, because I'm gonna use this word here because you guys understand it, like inherent, but is like attachment is an extra layer on top of inheritance, right? Of existing from its own side. It's more than that. It's kind of like it's an existing from its own side, and it's delicious, it's beautiful, it's nice, and it's gonna make me happy, right? So it decorates, completely decorates. Rinpoche used to use this word. I love this. Decorates, right? The entire situation. So it makes it so attractive that we become dumb, completely dumb. There's kind of like, oh no, but there, yeah, we lose logic. Hmm? Think about it, you know? No, we make kind of like it's when we are in love with someone and then we make very stupid decisions, even financial decisions, things like that. But it's like, no, of course it makes sense, you know, of course it makes sense. And someone that is, has nothing, like there's no attachment, enough, he say it doesn't make sense, you know, it's not there, right? But we can't see it because in our minds, the projections are so strong that is there, the attractiveness, right, of it, the kind of like mm, the the is we say in Brazil that is kind of like the mermaid singing, you know, that you get enchanted by the mermaids, you know, you get kind of like seduced by it, and then you just do whatever they want, and then they trap you, you know. So it's like that. That's exactly what it is. We just kind of like go into that mental state and we believe completely. We let it go of our logic, with our like an analysis, with our rational aspects of thinking, and we believe in that. And then we cling. You know, the clinging part is very important as well, because the clinging part comes with like, I must have it, right? I can't lose it. Hmm? It's like we really believe, you know? And that belief that I must have it in order to be happy, it's what also directly creates the fear of losing it. So if one is there, the other is going to be there as well. Hmm? If I have that clinging that this is going to make me happy, directly, how do you say, um, consequentially, is that correctly? We can say that. We're gonna have the fear of losing it, the fear of someone stealing it, the fear of this going away, of the fear of this person dumping me, or the fear of this person dying, you know, of that situation finishing. So that is another way to explain again to Bob how enjoyment cannot be there, because when there is that clinging, there's that fear, there's that anxiety. Does it make sense what I just said? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Thank you. Completely.
Thank you. Deb, we have a question.
Yeah, yeah. Why do we forget? Like I had I was at the beach on the weekend, and I knew there's a pizza place there, and I got the sense I have to get the piece of pizza. But I've done that before, and I've many times, and I know that it's not it. It's not like in the pizza. Like, why does it reappear again over and over?
Why is so why does it appear again? Because we have been pros for lifetimes. You know, we have been completely doing it and believing in that and being fooled by that and just falling for it for beginningless lifetimes, to be more precise. It's just that. It's just a habit, right? It's not because we are stupid. It's not because we don't have enough willpower. It's not because we are kind of like, you know, yeah, kind of like, I'm just so stupid. I'm just the. It's just not because of that. It's just because it's just a strong habit, a habitual tendency, right? Because we believe. That is the problem. We believe, still believe. We conventionally or intellectually we understand is not there, right? But remember, I've talked about it a few times, and I always like to really like bring that here as well, is that understanding, you know, like that understanding, that intellectual knowledge is not enough, right? We need to develop inner experience, inner wisdom in order to actually transform it, right? So just the intellectual understanding is not strong enough to fight, right? Or to transform that strong habitual pattern and tendency. Hmm?
Mm.
It is not enough. So that's why we need to develop wisdom. Because wisdom is the only thing that can actually cut that tendency, right? So that is the reason. It's not because we don't have enough good like willpower. It's not because we are not good enough. It's just because the habit is just too strong, right?
Because of the I felt the discontent afterwards that
Mm.
this didn't do it, and then I remembered it from other times, but it
But that's good. That is a good
was
way of doing it, right? Remembering, remembering the discontent of it of afterwards.
yeah.
It's actually a very good thing to help us before we engage, right? If we try, that's one of the antidotes that I was going to mention a little bit later, but it's once we are bringing it, it's good. It's good. Like one of the antidotes to like to decrease the grasping, right?
Mm,
Because that's what we need to first act, decrease the grasping, towards the object is remembering or reminding ourselves of the low part or the down part afterwards, right?
mm,
To say, does it look so attractive now? You know what I
yeah,
mean? It won't look so attractive in an hour or in 5 minutes or or in 10 years, right? It's like that
mm,
is what we need to kind of like really use
mm.
to help us to say, is it really needed? Is it really gonna bring me? And for how long? Right? So that helps. That really helps, to understand it. But then we need to do it like more often, and we really need to use because when the driving force of attachment comes, whoo, it's a strong energy, right? It's a
Yes.
very strong energy. That's why, like Lama Yeshe talks so much about the power of the desire, the power of attachment. It's the strongest energy we have, very strong energy. That it kind of like it can, we say love, people like men go to war because of love, and if you
Mm,
see things like that, like love, but it's actually attachment. It's just that that strong energy. So we need to be very skillful in training the mind before that comes up, right? Because when it comes up it's harder. It's like a wild horse, right? If you're still kind of like dominating and trying to kind of and then you know what to do and all of this, but when it's gone, it's harder, to actually tame it. Does it make sense? Yes.
thank you.
So that's important that we understand that the distinction, right? So that is also why it's important that we understand those two things: the projection, and the clinging, right? I must have, if I lose it, I'm gonna be completely miserable, and then we exaggerate and we create these impossible expectations, right? The projection is just incredible. It's just, we believe like things that have the nature of decaying, the nature of dying, the nature of it's part of their nature to break, for example, like the car or like a glass or like a computer or like a phone, you know? It's in their nature to break. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Right? Because they're made of components that have a time, how do you say that? A lifespan, right? It's like us. We also have a lifespan, Maybe 114, I think, is the eldest person, or 110 years old. That's it. That's our lifespan, right? So understanding that this is a characteristic quality of the object, of the person, of the situation, it already starts to, it's another antidote for those completely completely deluded expectations that we create, right? I had a problem the other day. I mean, with having all of these funny things happening, when everything starts to go wrong, like computer don't work, the phone starts to give problems, and then all of these things that start, you say, what's going on? So I was driving in Rio, going from here, my parents to Fribourg to Rio, and then I was just like, very slow and la la la, and then a guy just comes, and then he just literally goes in front of me like this, like, and then I had to kind of like, oh no, and then there was a car stopped, so so my mirror, my right mirror just went boom. And then everybody, and then there was a motorbike guy, and he was like, did you see what he did to you? I'm gonna go and talk to him. And then he went behind the guy, and because I'm in Brazil, and he said, why did you do this? Da, 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 da. And then, then he catch up with me, and then I said, you know, like it's the nature of the car. I said to the guy was looking at me with this very funny. I say, it's in the nature of the car to brake, right? If the car is here, it's a part of it to break, you know? And then he was looking at me with these eyes of like, you should be mad. You should be angry at that guy. That's what you should be feeling, Because that is the way we think, right? That is the way the mind goes, And then, yeah, if something breaks, then there's a solution. We make a solution. Then this, that, okay. So that is the type of, as I like to say, the difference between allowing, attachment, kind of like, and those kind of like expectations and completely deluded minds create a Brazilian drama in our minds, right? We take out the Brazilian drama and we just see it from what it is, the nature of it, right? And the nature of it is, it's in the nature of decaying, of breaking, of having problems. That's what it is, right? So when you have that understanding, the more we have that understanding and we shift it, as we were talking with Deb, we shift from just an intellectual understanding, but an experience, then the mind becomes calm, relaxed. Because what actually creates the suffering, what creates the instability, right, is the mind, the craving mind with the expectations, the projections. These are the problems. Not having what the projection wants. That's not the problem. But that's what we think, right? We think there's I'm just miserable and suffering because I don't have what my projection wants, right? Well, first, we don't even know this is a projection. Let's face it, right? We believe it's just because we don't have the object or the situation of the person or whatever, right? We believe. So then, if we can start just looking a little bit more inwards and say, oh, actually, it's my projection of wanting to have that and believing that this is it. So instead, this text that I'm reading from Jigakes Rinpoche says about being a hidden yogi and talking about that. And he was talking exactly about that, about how to really kind of like, what we need to do now in this time and age and where we are at, you guys know because you guys are high practitioners, but me, stupid woman, is like really checking my mind, right? That's what I have to do. Start really from the point of not even trying to kind of like now eliminate completely the projection, because that's what we actually want, but at least seeing it is my projection of the situation that is bringing me unhappiness, dissatisfaction, right? And not only this, then I can start to try to make it go away by understanding that, well, this projection will never bring me what I want. It actually brings me just a very temporary pleasure. Yeah? And then trying to not replace it from something else, because that's what we do. That's how we try to normally, the when we talk about lojong and mind training and things like that, we just do it like this. Oh, okay, so then I just change from, yeah, it's true, it's not anymore, I'm not attached anymore with fame and with big cars and all of that. Now I'm a very humble and poor monk, so now I'm attached to actually being humble and being kind, and the same. Exactly the same. Right? In the sense of the attachment mind, the mind of attachment, exactly the same. The mechanics, as I like to say, right? The mechanics of the mind, exactly the same. Just change the object. But the mind is still there, creating that story, creating projections that can never bring us, right? What we actually want. So that is what we need to start applying, antidotes like reasoning and trying to catch, Rinpoche used to say, he was talking more about it when we were talking about the meditation on, of understanding how things exist and all of that. But seeing the illusion, seeing the hallucination, seeing the decoration, for hallucination, for, illusion, for what it is. So that is a powerful meditation, right? If you start to see for yourself, wow, wait a minute, I'm completely seeing this. I'm completely deluding myself. It's me. I'm the one creating that. This person, this situation, this experience can never bring me. That is already 10 out of 10, right? Ace, best. So doing it, training the mind to see the delusion, the projections of the attachment, so important. So that's why it's important that we understand how attachment works. And that's why, I don't know you guys, but I've been listening to this for 12 years now, and I have no idea. I still follow for the same traps, right? For the same decorations. you know the same decoration still makes me, yes, still there. I still believe in this because they're very strong, they're very vivid, right? It's like, it looks so good. Look at burritos. It's exactly like this, pad thai, exactly like that. They look amazing. Cheese balls, exactly like this. So that is because even though we might understand intellectually, with time, we go. And what I like to say is that with time, what happens is not that we are able to completely eliminate, right now. Well, of course we can, but what we try to do at least is to release or decrease the grip, right? So make the grip a little bit light, like like opening it, like, I don't need to be, the grip to the grasping, the grip to the projection. Is like opening, a little bit more the mind, and then releasing it a little bit faster, or observing it and say, oh, look at me. I don't need to kind of like use my time and energy and all of that chasing that, because I can see. Hmm? In in that situation, in that connotation, um, vows are very helpful. Hmm? Because taking vows to help us not engage into normal activities that we would normally believe and interpret as ways to get the object of attachment. We stop them, we say, no, not these ones. So then that already starts to kind of like, it doesn't necessarily makes you be able to see the projection for a projection. Yes, it can, but it helps to stop the continuity or the pattern of following the normal way that we believe will bring the fulfillment of that projection. Does it make sense what I just said? Yes. So vows are kind of like protections in that sense. And then if we want to go deeper, because the mind becomes a little bit less, agitated because we don't get what we want so much, because we have the vows to keep us, then we are able to actually start looking a little bit more inside. Hmm? Yes? Seeing and looking at the mind that is projecting it. Hmm? And then really seeing the projection. And then we can be able to actually catch the projection before it becomes stronger and stronger. And then we are able to decrease it. Does it make sense what I just said? Does it? Yeah. So that is the power of what we can actually do with our minds if we want to. Hmm? If we understand, that kind of like the unreal expectations, that the grasping and the kind of like, the big grip we have, it can be released, right? So that is why is like I call one of the biggest antidotes is doing a reality check with ourselves, right? It's kind of like really asking ourselves and say, you know, um, does it really, really? What if, you actually get what you want? Will you have zero problems after that? Will you really like never ever have a issue? You're never gonna feel dissatisfaction again. You're never gonna feel bored. You're never gonna feel, you're gonna feel completely fulfilled. Really? Check. Right? That's how I call reality check. It's just like, really? It's like look at into it. Try to counter argue with yourself. Counter argue, is that okay? Is that a good word? Yeah. So you argue again, like with yourself. You're gonna kind of like, it's like that's an inner debate, or you become your own therapist, or as I like to say, you become your own lawyer. You come here and then someone comes in and you go like, but and then you go like this and then you go from that. You do like this. You debate with yourself and say that doesn't make any logic, right? Because that becomes good because it really starts to check, right? Oh yeah. And if you get this, you have zero problems, you have zero dissatisfaction, really? And then, right? So this is one of the antidotes that I find it very important. The other one is looking at the ugly side, right? We say that like, oh, like when you attract to the body of someone, then you try to meditate on the ugliness of the body, right? But it's not just the ugliness of the body. We can actually meditate on the ugliness of everything. And the ugliness here is not necessarily ugliness, but is more the negative side or the downside, right? Everything has a downside. So, if we have someone that looks so attractive, so nice, and then you say they're going to have, bad days, they're going to be cranky, they are going to be in a bad mood, right? So it's kind of like just decreasing a little bit. Or, oh, that situation looks amazing. I try to say that. I don't know if I succeeded so much. Patty can say that, but oh yes, the pilgrimage is gonna be amazing. It's gonna be that, and I said, well, we're gonna be in India and Nepal. Things are most possibly gonna go wrong many times. We're gonna have difficulties. But things are gonna have like, or maybe you can have like eat something and get diarrhea, or you can kind of like, you can be in this situation and that. It kind of like takes out the the Disney effect of everything being fluffy and nice, and you know what I mean? The Disney World effect, that we are like, everything is butterflies, rainbows, and it's not like that at all, right? So counteracting with these mental states, it's very important. Very, very important. And one of the techniques that I also like is what we discussed a little bit with Deb, but it's really understanding that the mind of attachment in itself, it's not a pleasurable experience. It's actually a mind that is anxious and then is disturbed, right? And recognizing that this is the mind of attachment, right? it's not a fluffy, amazing what you say. It's actually a mind that is stressed, and especially is stressed because, as I say, immediately, consequentially, it will come that anxiety, that fear that will with it. So it's never relaxed. It's never peaceful. It's never open. It's never there. It's always tight. There's always a tightness in it, right? Does it make sense? Yes? Do you recognize? Do you understand that? Those are very important techniques for us to start using it to just decrease, right? To really start kind of like, and it's also interesting for us to kind of like also bring some past experiences in our life, and how frustrated we were when things go wrong. So actually, when things go wrong, best time for us to practice antidote, right? Because we say like, oh, we try to learn from our mistakes. That is the idea. That's how we can actually learn from our mistakes. It's not that like, I'm never gonna fall in love, I'm never gonna fall for a person that does that. It's like, no, 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 just don't create the expectations of the mind, right? So then we start to exactly having, a frustration. Like, for example, I don't know, oh yes, like 5 years ago, I really wanted these, and I really like spent all my energy and time believing that these were going to bring me happiness, and then it didn't. So use that frustration, use that pain, use that kind of like, you know, of not having what you wanted as a way to say, I'm not going to fall for that anymore. And fall for that doesn't mean the object, the situation, the person is the mind of attachment. That is the one that we shouldn't follow, right? That is the one stealing our peace of mind. That is the one, right? So we use that. So in these ways, wow, amazing, amazing, best, best, best. We can use that, right? We can use those energies, that situation that happens inside of us, to really kind of like not engage and make this mental state just completely disappear, or at least decrease as most as possible that we can. Because right now we just use our body, speech, and mind, our time, energy, money, just to chase those things. As we saw last week, and with the eight worldly concerns. So tiring, so boring, you know? And then we just use, and then we kind of like go into the same experience, and then we go back and say, why am I here again in the same situation? Why is it happening again to me? Right? Well, because we are still following the mind of attachment. We are still thinking the mind of attachment is, the correct assumption, the correct way. So that is what we need to start really to kind of like to transform, to really uplift, uproot, take out the root of it, right? So that is very important. And then life becomes more real. And as we were saying, the more real life becomes, the better the taste, because the taste is not contaminated by, the the projections, the impossible expectations. Then we start to really taste life, the juicy part of life, not the fake. It's like, when you go and you have like a fresh juice of something, or you have like a bottle juice of like a lot of stuff inside. That's what we think, life is normally, is the sugary, addictive kind of like whatever. And then when we have a fresh, nice thing, we say, okay, that tastes different. That tastes good, right? It's a bit like this. Doesn't make sense. Of course, it has to be an example of food with me, but then it's like this, right? It's like this idea of, wow, actually, the mind has, the potential of experiencing things in a less less projected, less create decorated way, right? in a more raw and a a more simple approach. That is also very, very special. Yes. Do you have any questions? Does it make any sense what I said, we discussed today? Yes. Okay. So we're gonna slowly, if no questions, no doubts, no nothing. Yes, Sheila.
So, I can hear all this stuff and I intellectually even like try to remember it and apply it. But I would say 9 times out of 10, I go for the attachment. I mean, I
Yes.
can go, to buy, like, I've got an attachment to chocolate. So
Yes.
sometimes I just get that urge and I go into the store and I look at the shelves and I go and I think, oh, you should just forget it. It's not really going to satisfy you. And I go through this whole mental gymnastics and then I buy the chocolate anyway.
Yes. Yes. Very good.
Oh,
Very good.
but
Very good. Because the problem is what I said, is we are negating it completely. Like you're negating the satisfaction completely. You're throwing the baby with the bathwater, right? So if you try a more, um, let's say, middle or more, I don't want to use this word because it's too Buddhist, a more kind of like um, I'm not gonna say authentic, but a really more um, normal approach, I'm going to use this word, which is understanding that there you have that habit, right? And that habit is very strong. And you're not going to be able to just like let it go of it like that. And this is going to frustrate you, if you actually think that just by rationalizing it and saying, oh, I know this, I know that, I know that. But if the feeling, is still there, the sensation, the emotion of craving is still there. So what you try to do is that, yes, you can maybe allow yourself to do it, but maybe you can actually buy the chocolate and use it as I was saying, a way to prove to you that this doesn't bring happiness, right? And really use it and kind of like say, okay, you really want that, so then you're gonna eat the entire chocolate now, the entire thing in once, and really try to enjoy it, all of it. So you go like this, you be creative with yourself. But if we go into negating that craving, right? And believing that just with the intellectual understanding, this is going to kind of like stop it from coming, right? It doesn't. It doesn't. Actually, the craving is the mental, I was teaching to Thubten this year, actually. I was going to say last year, but it's still this year, at the Lojong, right? We were doing for 4 months, 8 verses. 4 months, 8 verses. Crazy, these monkeys are completely crazy. 8 months, no, 4 months, no, 4 months, 8 verses, not 8 months, 4 verses. No, this will be even worse. 8 months, 4 months. And His Holiness has a very special commentary on the 8 verses, and he talks about the manifested emotion, right? When we are trying to transform it, we are trying to transform the manifested emotion. We can't forget that, Sheila. What we are trying to do when we are trying to,
exactly.
sorry?
So what exactly does it mean, the manifested emotions? Is that all
It
emotions?
means that you are already attached.
Yeah.
It's already there, right? And you can see it. And then you need to be very skillful with yourself to know in that moment what you actually can do it, right? One of the main things is that if you can like let it go, you see that the attachment is coming and it's there, so it's there, but it's like not strong enough, so you just say, and you're just like going around in the supermarket and you say, just don't pass there, just don't pass, so you don't have to say. So you're still kind of like a little bit away from the chocolate, so you can kind of like create ways to maybe, or the urge is not that so strong, right? Mm? So you can kind of like in those moments, so you need to kind of like look at where the manifested emotion, or the power or the intensity of the manifested emotion is. Okay, So you can come with the different antidotes. So this is one way of, like, you can just say, no, 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 don't even go in that aisle, because you're gonna kind of like fall for that. You don't have enough strength for that, right? That's normally what we do, like monks and nuns and kind of like vows, is like you try to refrain from encountering those objects of attachment, because you know that you don't have the power, the willpower to survive. Let's say.
Training, it makes it more appetizing.
So then, very good, very, very good. So sometimes it works, right? Sometimes you can kind of like refrain from doing it, and then you can use something else. Like, let's say, okay, so then I'm gonna go for a banana because, or a small ice cream or a small lolly or whatever. You're gonna kind of like, because it's not about the food in itself, right? It's about the craving. So then you can use something else to distract your mind from that one. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Right? So then you do that. And then one of the first, when it is there and it is so strong, then it's trying to use it to prove to yourself, that is not as appealing. It's like it's using the object in itself to prove the projections are wrong, right? It's almost there. It's like kind of like say, oh yes, I'm gonna have 10 chocolate bars and I'm gonna put two of them in my mouth and I'm gonna see if I'm still liking it, right? It's really using, but you need to have the wish for that, right? So it's not about saying, oh no, I shouldn't buy, oh no, I cannot buy, and then you buy and then you feel guilt, oh, I shouldn't have done this, and then you eat with guilt. No, just eat and enjoy it, but knows that enjoying it is just gonna be for a very short time, and if you eat enough of it, you're gonna actually not like it. So do that. Prove to you that this is true, right? So be creative in this, right? So you need to be creative. Then other things, distracting with yourself, as I said, just do something else. I always say that, especially for some people that I know, monks or nuns or other people, that something's so strong in their minds, and then they're in the loop. I had a situation recently, someone called me saying, oh, this person is like that, I don't know what to do. And I said, which stage are them in that anger? And then they say, what do you mean? And I say, do you think we can kind of like try to approach with some dharma? And they said, no. It's dharma practitioner, the other person. It's like, no, we can't. It's like, no, we cannot kind of like start to say, okay, so, we sometimes just need to then give a little bit of space of that mind. And we are talking about ourselves here, to let it kind of like vent it out of like, oh yes, but chocolate is so good, blah, 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 blah. And then you start, okay, finished, kind of like finished, you know what I mean? It's like, let it, and then you say, okay, or you use a distraction. You use something that is a little bit less harmful, less attractive, or less kind of like attached, is a little bit to decrease that mindset, to take that mindset, Lama Yeshe used to say that is like sometimes you give a little bit of something, a small part, so it doesn't stay in the big chunk, right? So that's why you eat a piece of chocolate and you give one piece of chocolate, but you don't need to eat the entire thing, right? So that is the creativeness, the creative way, how creative we need to be, right? There's no one way. There is actually a toolbox, a toolkit that we have called Dharma, and that we apply and we use in these different ways. Huh? That's why all of these are considered analytical meditations in some ways. That's why we need to do the formal analytical meditations, because when you are there in the aisle at Whole Foods, you have the tools with you and you know which one to use. And you just start to develop your inner wisdom to check which of these tools is going to work for you in that moment. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So applying that.
Change. Yeah.
Sorry?
There's strong habits to change.
That's it. That is. It's a strong habit to change, but we can do it. We have so many tools nowadays, right? And like the more we learn, the more we kind of like we say, okay, so then here now, because people normally when they start with Buddhism, they always say it's like, okay, but what is the correct answer? And I always say there's no one correct answer, one correct way of dealing with this situation, one correct. There's no one. Why? Because the mind. We need to check the mind, and then we need to use that antidote. And the antidote is going to be an opposite mind. So you need to check what is the mind, right? So if the mind is craving and creating a story that actually the chocolate is going to be because you are, kind of like feeling lonely because it's winter, and then you need vitamin B or iron or whatever it is, you just go and kind of like, bring it the mind and start saying, well, you can have the same if you have a smoothie or whatever, It's kind of like even in the more lower or superficial aspect of it. We become, because the mind is very sneaky, it goes creating all of these stories, so we need to check the story, and then when we can, the best antidote is to see the story for a story, the projection for a projection, right? The hallucination, the decoration. It's like, I'm completely here create this story that chocolate is going to make me happy. Then you let it go, right? Then it becomes easier to let it go. So we go like this, slowly, 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 slowly. But as you said, 9.9 out of 10, we're gonna normally, still go into the chocolate. And that's fine. That's fine. That is super fine. Don't, don't believe that it's gonna just change like this, right? So that is good. 0.1% is better than 100% of the time, right? In like letting it go. One of my teachers used to say that, he used to say, we are so grasping for big changes, but actually now just doing it 99% of the time, falling, into the habit, but 0.01% of the time, not doing it, it's better than not 0%. And then we go like this, just go slowly. Then that's why the big practitioners you see, they have such a spacious mind that if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You go like this, it becomes less strict, like tight, because it's like, okay, it goes. And that helps as well, the mind to come with different solutions, creativity, and all of that. Okay, sweethearts, thank you so, so much. I'm so sorry I talked too much. It's getting late. Thank you so, so much for this. I hope that it was in any way beneficial and that it created any positivity. And if it did, if you think that anything that we created here individually and together created any benefit, then make sure that we use it to decrease our attachments, decrease our completely deluded minds that create suffering for ourselves and create suffering for others. And the more we create, even 0.01% of the time, it is making a more peaceful and kind and better world in that moment. Don't forget that. So doing it, it's actually helping the world. So we just continue, keep going. As one of my Nigma teachers, Chakdu Tuku Rinpoche, used to say, keep going, just keep going, keep going, keep going. So that's what we do. Okay? Thank you so, so much. And I see you next Tuesday from Florida, from the sunny state. No, the warm. Is it warm over there? Is it cold?